Hey guys, we're saying the same thing here. So this comment comes in as far as doing head gaskets, head bolts one stud at a time, and I'm like, hey, yeah, the answer is yes, you can, but recognize the risk you're taking is how that video starts, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. So this gentleman writes, I disagree. To do it properly, you're going to have to replace that gasket more times than not. The head gasket will leak after. You know, that is true asterisk. That's true kind of. It's more true on non-commonized head gaskets. So if you have like a 18 millimeter alignment dowels because you've got a 03, 04, 05 early build 06, you have your heads are 25% thinner at the bed plate. Therefore, there is a likelihood that they've been flexing this entire time as we've been talking. The likelihood of having it leak afterwards is higher as a result of the fact that your heads are, there's a higher propensity of them being warped. And so if they're warped, yes, you're going to go ahead and you're going to push them down further and say, oh no, you are not warped. You're going to come back. And this is also a reason no one talks about this, but you should really acclimate your heads to the same condition that the short block is in. So what you don't want to do is, especially in January, get your heads off the back of the truck that are freshly delivered because you decided to buy new heads because you were listening to my channel, just saying, and it's 0 degrees, take them off there and instantly install them on your short block. It might just end badly. Metal moves, and so you want the metals to be at the same temperature, the short block to the heads, and that way you minimize the chance of movement of that steel. The same thing is true here. So we're trying to minimize the movement of the steel and going ahead and clamping it down better all at the same time on heads that are likely warped. So what's a fellow to do? Somebody else put a comment of, hey, can you put studs in and just not torque them down all the way? Well, yes, you can do that too. And if you torque them to the same torque spec that the OE bolts were torqued to, you're going to get the same clamping force, but obviously they're not going to stretch any further. And so, that's certainly a better than nothing. And if you were to do that, then your heads would not leak. Again, if you were to not put any extra clamping force down. But the studs can certainly take the extra clamping force. And so now it's like, man, what do you do? What do you do? And I just want you guys to know, like most things you're seeing in my channel, there's no right answers on what to do. You can go ahead and you can try to put them to full 210 or full 240 or even beyond a little bit, because some of you guys like to do that, and I shot a video on that concept as far as metallurgy and where do these torque specs come from and all this kind of stuff. So just recognize there's always a reason why, one of my favorite phrases, and physics works for everyone, another one of my favorite phrases. So you can do head bolts one at a time. Take out the one, put in the other. And, I had a guy tell me, he says, oh yeah, I take out the one and I drop the other one and I instantly torque it to max torque spec. I wouldn't actually do that. I would torque them all down to the OE rated bolt setting and then very slowly bring it up. So that they all get to whatever number you decide on, knowing full well that you can't know how warped your heads are or are not. And somebody else writes, they're like, well, this is just, all this to avoid going to the machine shop? It's a lot of extra work to pull some heads. It is, and actually, I think that comment was made as regards my prepping video, talking about the faster way to prep the short block, where you can use a roll lock disc if you're careful on a higher grit. not a finer grit roll lock disc. You put like a 240 in there or something to clean the stuff up. It's just faster than using the stone out of the gate, even though you're going to end up with the stone. And somebody else said, oh man, my back. So I did listen to you guys' comments. So I can't imagine my back doing this. Wait, what? You're doing this inside the truck? Not necessarily, but not all of us have lifts. I will tell you, the day about 20 years ago when I first bought a lift for myself, I'm like, oh, this is nice. This is so nice. So maybe your next house, if you're thinking about building, have the bay be high enough where you can support a lift, and it's just pretty nice. Nothing less than 14 feet, ideally higher, especially if you're a taller guy. I'm 6'4", so you don't want to be under your truck doing this all the time, But at any rate, all of you guys are some semblance of right. And I want you to understand that the devil's in the details as far as the reasons why. So, is there a right answer? No. Do you want to do things properly? Yes. So if you do take the heads off, please prep the short block properly. Pick up our lapping plate, pick up our sharpening stone from FICMRepair.com, pick up the studs, pick up the inner row bolts with it if you're going to do the ARP 2000s kit. The 625s, the inner rows come with it. Torque them down properly. Come back and retorque them later. Consider retorquing them hot afterwards to get the best of the best of the best. Now there's just not a question about what you've got. But if you're gonna torque them one bolt at a time, these same concepts, these same rules continue to apply, right? Why are we all doing this? Because we don't want to have more problems. I was talking to a guy. I was doing his build sheet, coming up with the list, and it's like, where do you want to stop? He says, I want to stop at the end. Okay, well, we had a $25,000 parts list at the end. Holy crap. And that was without pistons. That was without forged rods. That was without, bearings even. And it's like, holy buckets, man. So you can spend some cash. Now, you don't have to. Just because you call us looking for a build sheet doesn't mean you're going to end up spending 25 grand, right? You spend as little as much as you want to. I mean, you can get in this for just the cost of some ARP bolts if that's what you want to do. Please don't let us pull you one direction or the other. I just want you to know how the world works. And once you know how the world works, you can decide what works for you and then go from there. So I hope this helps. FICMRepair.com. We're all in this together. Happy Sunday, guys. Appreciate you.